following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Every day, citizens around the country are faced with new dilemmas that affect them profoundly. Whether it's injustice, discrimination, falling through the cracks, scandals and cronyism, balances of power, ethics, religious freedoms, state versus citizens, and unfunded mandates, and the list goes on and on and on. Welcome to Speak Up. It's directed at those who have fallen through the cracks, and it gives them a voice. It's your turn to speak up, to stand up and fight back. Welcome to Speak Up. I'm Kevin Avard, your host. Today, we're going to be talking with a candidate for state rep from Hudson, New Hampshire. She's been on the show before in a different light, but she's getting involved here on the state level and wants to make a difference. I want to introduce Kimberly Rice.
Hello.
Welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
In a different type of tone now. You're running for state rep.
I am.
In Hudson?
Yes, Hudson and Pelham,
Hudson
District 37.
Wow.
That's what I said.
Who convinced you to do this?
It's something that I've thought about. My husband and my family are continually pushing me to do it. And I when I saw that Andy Renzullo wasn't going to run for re-election, I said, you know, maybe now's the time.
Yeah, Andy's a good guy.
He is a good guy. And I decided that it was time and threw my hat in the race.
Have you talked with Andy?
I have not talked to Andy yet. I did see him at a GOP meeting, but it was quite busy in there, and people were pulling me aside to talk to me, and so I never got the...
So you're running on the Republican ticket?
I am.
And what do you think about this Obamacare?
I think that Obamacare is a national disaster. I think that there is no such thing as a one-size-fits-all medical plan for anyone.
Right.
I don't think the government needs to be involved in our health care, nor should they. How many constituents just from Hudson and Pelham lost their doctors and their hospital care because of Southern New Hampshire New Hampshire Hospital, you know, wasn't going to be a part of that.
Right, and so they're out of the loop now. They have to go travel someplace else.
Yeah.
They've lost their doctors. I think what
But
trouble,
remember, they were going to get to keep their doctors, Kevin.
I think that's the problem. And one of the things that you're going to find as a state rep, I believe, that when you get up in the Capitol, you're going to say, well, wait a minute, we have a committee. Somebody's going to introduce a bill, and there's going to be a public forum. You're going to go through it in the committee. You're going to weigh all the odds, and then you're going to vote for it in committee. Then it's going to go before the House. So there's really a lot of full disclosure.
Yep.
But when I consider Obamacare, and Nancy Pelosi saying, well, we got to vote for it first to find out what's in it, how deceptive.
How deceptive was that, and how ignorant that
But they did it.
But you don't. Do you sign a contract without reading it?
Right.
It makes no sense to me.
It put such a burden on the American public, and now we have to deal with the consequences. So hopefully somebody has enough courage to repeal this thing.
I really hope so.
Because it's quite an infringement. One of the issues, you know, a lot of people are talking about the energy prices and the costs going up. Did you know that they're going to be potentially closing the coal plant up in...
I did not know that.
Yeah, they're going to be potentially closing the coal plant, which means your energy prices are going up. And I understand that is one of the major reasons why businesses aren't coming to New Hampshire. Energy costs. And have you talked to any your constituents about that? Or?
I have not yet. I haven't.
You're really new to this.
I am really new to this. I joined the race, I think, 2 days before it was the last day to file.
Right.
So I've really just now started getting into everything. You know, I just don't know how they expect us to live.
Right.
With no jobs. You know, I've got daughters that have graduated college, are working on their masters, and have to work in Massachusetts.
Why is that?
Because there's no jobs for them here.
What type of jobs were they looking for?
They're in the mental health field, and New Hampshire does not have good mental health.
You need to go up to Concord.
Yeah, right. I think they use me as a practice patient.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, you've gone through a lot in the past. There are other issues as well. You know, obviously you struggled with the family courts, and there seems to be a lot of people that are running, gone kind of through the same thing that you've gone through, where there doesn't seem to be an equal justice system for.
No, there's not. There's not. And a huge issue that I have with it is accountability. Judges, GALs, DCYF.
What is GAL?
A GAL is a guardian ad litem. It's an attorney appointed for the children. It's supposed to be an in-the-middle person, you know, not really picking sides, but helping to choose what's best for the child.
Now, on the surface, that sounds like it's a good idea, and there's supposed to be a $1,000 limit, but we're seeing that limit is just going through the roof.
It does, and they don't put a cap on it, and it's being done without the knowledge or consent of the parties that are paying for this.
But hasn't the Supreme Court already decided that the best interest of the child is both parents?
Yes.
Equal parenting?
Yes.
Unless a parent has been adjudicated as unfit.
Yeah.
So my question then is, why then is there such a problem? Why are judges saying, well, we can't really trust the father, or we really can't trust the mother when it's already settled? Why are you
Why
appointing?
are they sticking their nose into it?
Right.
Why can't they let it be? You know why? Because it's Title IV defunding.
There is some money involved. One of the things that really troubled me, having interviewed Dr. Vandenberg, and it's still in my craw, there's a sealed envelope. And in that sealed envelope, there's some type of note written from somebody, maybe the daughter, maybe the mother, who actually is in the psychological field. Dr. Vandenberg's not allowed to see what's in that envelope. And he's been separated from his child. He's committed no crime.
Right.
He's now appealing to the Supreme Court because of the injustices he's been serving. I know there's individuals all across the state that are feeling grieved. And
helpless, Kevin, helpless, because they can't understand what they've done wrong.
Right.
They were good parents, and they were, in our case, the thing that appalls me is that my husband's okay to be a father to my children, but he couldn't have 50-50 custody of his children.
And at one point he had more than 50.
And at one point he had 60% custody.
And I think one of the, it's troubling because then once the custody battles, you know, whether you're, I don't know, he was a car dealer, or car salesman, whether you're a firefighter, whether you're a police officer, there's a high divorce ratio in that occupation. These guys are first responders. You know, one of the things they don't want to have to worry about is the fact of, my gosh, when am I going to see my kid next?
Exactly.
And you know the pain of that.
We've lived it, and it really angers me that why someone would think that one parent doesn't hurt like the other parent.
Oh.
Or why is it that people think fathers don't love their children as much as mothers do?
Right.
I can't comprehend that. You know, my two younger children, their father, he's not the greatest guy. He's got issues. You know, I have never kept him from his children. They love him. I don't have a lot of respect for him, but I have that respect for my kids to do what's best for them. And I think that all parents should look at it that way. Doesn't matter if you're angry at the person. You have to take care of what's best for your children.
Right. And one of the things that we're seeing across the country, from what I understand, is this whole concept of parental alienation. And what they're seeing is the effects over years and years, how that, you know, the child that has been alienated from the mother, and it's happening to 50, believe it or not, 50-50 across the country, either the mother or the father, that the child grows up with all kinds of issues inside because they have very poor self-esteem, there are more crimes committed, and what they find is that over time, the alienating parent actually loses that child forever.
And Kevin, the courts are allowing this to happen.
Yeah.
And that's where we have our problem. You know, they butt their noses into everything. We have a law, 50-50 enact it, we're done.
Right. Well, it's already on the book. It's just why aren't they enforcing it?
It's why aren't they enforcing it?
Right.
Where is the accountability in this? You know, and I try to think that, you know, these people are human beings. GALs are human beings. They're like you and me. Yeah, they have more training and whatnot, but they're going to pull towards someone they feel they have something more in common with, and that's not the way it's supposed to be.
And they do have a fiduciary interest in either
They
belaying
absolutely.
it. We've seen some cases up to $40,000 for a GAL. Well, what are they going by? They're going by the bank account. Well, how much can
Exactly.
you afford? Well, we need some more study. We need some more interviews.
And
in
you
some
can't do
cases,
that.
In some cases, we're seeing where some of the GALs aren't even visiting the schools. They're not visiting the
Right.
parents. So parental rights.
Yes.
It's obviously an issue, and that's something that you want to remedy when you're up there. I know that there are other issues. I mean, obviously, there's a new gas tax coming on.
Yeah, that came out today. I gassed up yesterday. You know,
Well, that'll last a day or so.
I was sure to top it off before, you know, I mean, all that's going to do, that's not going to make me continually to pay more. I'm going to have to limit where I go.
Right.
Gee, will I go to my mother's this weekend? Will I have the money to afford to do that?
I'm sure it'll make you feel better that some of the money might end up going to the courts.
Oh, sure. It tends to go everywhere but where it's supposed to go.
Right. There was a recent amendment, I believe Gary Daniels was one of the sponsors, that would make sure that 100% of that money would go to the roads, would go to the bridges. And that's a concern. And
It is a concern.
The Democrats actually voted it down. So.
And why? Isn't this why we had the gas tax?
Right.
Wasn't that their argument?
Right.
Enough of the lies.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. You know, but we have money meant for spending something. Then we have, you know, a governor who's making a budget based on a casino that hasn't even been passed.
Yeah, that's a problem.
How do you do that? To me, it's common sense. I just get flabbergasted because I'm like, wait a minute. Does this not make sense to everyone?
Right. Why are you creating a budget on something? And apparently there might have been some deals made. I'm not really sure. But,
Well, you know what, Kevin? I don't play politics because these are people's lives. These are our lives, my children's lives, my children's future. You know, they're one of the reasons I'm running.
How are you reaching out to the people?
Well, right now I have signs out. I'm getting my palm cards. I'll be going door to door to meet all the, you know, possible constituents. You know,
You have a big area, actually.
I do have a big area. It'll be tough,
Right.
but I'm going to hit as many as I can.
Right.
You know, I will write a letter to the editor to introduce myself to the ones that I, you know, unfortunately cannot get to
Right.
because it is so large. But I want to be able to help people the way that you've helped us. You know, we had so much support from so many legislatures that it was really, you know, heartfelt to us. And I want to be able to give some of that back.
Right. And having gone through some of it and being on the recipient, but now you know that there are other people with similar cases, and you bring a certain gift to the table. Not everybody can be an economic, not everybody can be everybody brings to the table, and that's what's beautiful about our legislation.
We're just a mixed cup.
Right, and you have to be in order
Yeah.
to get a fair balance of representation.
Exactly.
Are you going to have a website soon?
I am, yes. I will be getting a website up and everything's
Isn't it exciting?
It is exciting.
Right.
It's just all happening like so fast. I'm like, ooh, whirlwind, my calendar is filling up. I have a life.
How can people contact you to help you with your campaign?
You can reach me at kimfornewhampshirestaterapp@gmail.com. I have a Facebook page that is Kim with the number 4 NH.
Okay.
And then I am at Kim4NH on Twitter.
Great. Do you want to make an appeal to the voters right now?
Do I? I do. I just think it would be such a privilege and an honor to be able to serve and to just have such an open door policy and be able to help in any way I possibly can because, like I said, my family was helped so much and I really just want to give some back and do what's best for the state of New Hampshire and Hudson. I just love it there.
Great.
You know?
Great. Well, we're going to be right back with our next guest, so just hang on. And thanks for coming on to the show.
Thanks for
and
having me,
hopefully,
Kevin.
we'll have you back at another point.
Hopefully.
Okay?
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks.
We'll be right back.
Things happen very, very, very quickly.
If the parent isn't proven unfit, a parent should have the rights to their child.
So when the day came that I was supposed to get her back, I didn't know where he was.
They are the judge, they are the jury.
I went to give him a hug and a kiss to tell him that everything was going to be all right.
Basically, seen it all. This one caught you by surprise.
It was psychologically difficult.
What I want to do is show people that this is organized crime.
We are very uncomfortable.
My husband is beside himself.
This is a trained situation here.
Bullying to bizarre to dangerous.
The scary part was
Because you don't know what the end is.
Hello, my name is Kevin Avard, host of Speak Up TV. If you would like to be a guest on Speak Up, please contact me at speakupnh@gmail.com. We'll help you be heard. Kimberly Morin, welcome back to the show. And yeah, just want to, there's a lot of things in the news lately, and this thing with Hobby Lobby, let's talk a little bit about that.
So a couple of years ago, after Obamacare was passed, Kathleen Sebelius, who was head of the Health and Human Services at that time, put regulations into place. These weren't put into place by Congress. She put regulations, or her minions, put regulations into place that said all companies had to provide health care coverage for every kind of birth control there is. There's 20 different kinds. 16 of them are just regular birth control, and then there's 4 that actually can cause abortion. So Hobby Lobby, up until that point, provided birth control coverage. I mean, they still do, but they provided it for all the other different types. They took issue with having to provide these abortive type birth control,
Right.
because they run their business as a Christian, with Christian values. I mean, it says it in their mission statement and
It's part
everything.
of their faith.
It's part of their faith.
Right.
So they only took issue with those 4, so they decided to sue. They didn't believe that they should have to provide those because it was against their religious freedom, which of course is protected by the First Amendment in the Bill of Rights. So it finally came to the Supreme Court, and it was ruled on yesterday, or this week, and they won.
5-4 decision.
5-4 decision, they won. So, but there seems to be a lot of misunderstanding, intentional lying, hysteria, and just people who don't know the facts around this. So I wanted to just talk about what the facts are, because I researched this 2 years ago when it first came out, and all these people were hysterical back then, like, oh my God, we're not gonna have birth control anymore, because for some reason women on the left don't think they can go out and buy it themselves, especially when it's $10 a month in some places. But besides that, there's a lot of other lies and hysteria that were out there. So what I wanted to do is just go over that a little bit. And then, this is I actually did this from 2 years ago, but they brought up all these same lies and hysteria again. And then I'll talk about how our legislators in the state are reacting.
Okay.
Because they seem to want to continue this.
I find it very troubling, though, that agencies or from the executive branch can just create rules that have the effect of law, and there's no representation with that, and that almost seems it definitely seems like a backdoor tyranny.
Well, it is, because that's just like with what Obama's doing with the EPA. They're creating laws that Congress should be passing.
All right, you got a puddle in your backyard? I'm sorry, we're going to have to regulate that. You can't step in it because it might trickle down and go into a stream and do something else. That's just getting absurd.
Right.
And I'm just going to veer on one more thing. I know the EPA is having issues with this the pipeline out in Keystone, but Canada's saying, you know what? We're tired of waiting. We're gonna probably ship that to China, and damn with you, America. And I'm sorry, this has got to stop. Because it seems like this EPA is turned rogue.
They are the extremists of the enviro wacko movement.
Right.
They are like beyond extreme. They don't
It's
listen.
a religion to them.
It's a cult.
Right.
They don't listen to the scientists who disagree and disprove their false claims about man-made climate change. They called it global warming before. When people started realizing it wasn't actually getting warmer, they changed it to climate change. Except climate change has been happening since the beginning of Earth.
Right. I mean, there was a glacier here at one point. Right. I don't think
So-
the autos did that. All right, let's get back to our Hobby Lobby.
So we can talk about all that
Sure,
stuff for a
yeah.
long time. So, and some of the lies that people are saying about the whole Hobby Lobby situation is that they're forcing their religious beliefs on their employees. No, they aren't. They aren't forcing their religious beliefs on anyone. The federal government is trying to curb their religious freedom. They're trying to interfere into their religious freedom.
Yeah, and I believe if you look at the First Amendment, you're not allowed to infringe upon.
Right.
You can't.
Infringe upon, exactly.
The
That's the word I
government
meant.
can establish, but it also cannot restrict the practice thereof either.
Right, exactly. So this whole thing is really about the Constitution. It has nothing to do really with birth control. It has nothing to do with employees. It has nothing to do with the women. The employees, by the way, never complained about this. It was not the employees who brought this lawsuit. It was Hobby Lobby who brought this lawsuit against the Obama administration because of Obamacare.
And because their conscience was being violated.
Correct. Their religious freedoms were being violated. So another one is that another lie is that Hobby Lobby refuses to provide birth control to women. That's not true. They already have. They have been all this time, and they continue to.
Are there any Muslim groups under attack right now?
No, because they are exempt from Obamacare.
That's not true.
I think they are. Well, certain religious groups have exemptions from Obamacare.
Really?
I'd have to look into the actual details, but yeah, if you're a religious group that doesn't, I believe, you can't have certain medical treatment or whatever. You refuse to have medical treatment because of that. I believe you can be exempt if that's been in your religion.
Interesting.
I'd have to double check on that.
Okay.
Because I did see something about that the other day, but there are some exemptions for groups.
Right.
Like churches or whatever, people who are a religious organization. There are certain groups.
What's happening in the state legislature with this Hobby Lobby thing? This rhetoric?
Well, it's par for the course. You have Democrats lying, repeating some of these lies. Saying one said that they're not going to provide medical care anymore, or they're interfering with medical care. Let's see, Senator Shaheen, who voted for Obamacare, which is the government interfering in women's choices of health care. We lost in New Hampshire. We lost our health insurance. We lost our doctors, we lost our hospitals. Some of us didn't lose those things, but we had to pay more for insurance premiums. We had to get coverage that we didn't want or need, and we have to pay more for other things now. That's direct interference of the government. And Senator Shaheen had the nerve to say that the Congress or the SCOTUS, the Supreme Court, shouldn't interfere and let a business get in between a woman and her doctor. But that's what she did.
That's exactly what Obamacare did. In addition to that, the privacy issue has been nuked through this Obamacare. From what I understand, that as soon as you sign up for it, you sign all expectations of privacy away, which means HIPAA is out the window, and all your medical information is filtered through the IRS, through all the other organizations.
Yeah, given the shoddy and completely incompetent way the website was put together, and I honestly don't blame the consultants. I blame the government, because I've worked with the government in the medical field on IT issues, and they are horrendous.
On HIPAA.
Everything's HIPAA related because you have to be careful with data. But I worked specifically with government, the government, and they are really horrible. They can't make decisions. They change their minds all the time. I mean, you have completely inept people making these decisions, and other people have to put them into place. So believe me, I personally dealt with it, so I know, in the medical field. So with an insurance company.
I laugh at the HIPAA laws because, when you're in the bed next to another patient, well, John, you're going to get your shot now, and we're going to use 3 ICCs or whatever they are. And you can hear all things right through the curtain.
Yeah.
And you know what's going on.
Right.
And you just kind of laugh. Well, all right, you signed a paper saying there's a certain amount of privacy, but
Right.
It's interesting.
So the response to the ruling has just been hysteria.
Right.
For some reason, some women, typically those on the left, don't understand the Constitution, don't understand that they still can go down the street to the store and get Plan B abortion pills if they want, and don't understand that Hobby Lobby isn't trying to do something wrong to its employees. The federal government was trying to do something wrong to Hobby Lobby.
Right, and they're just defending themselves.
The Supreme Court actually did their job and upheld the Constitution. They don't always do that. It depends. But that's their job. They're supposed to uphold the Constitution, and that's what they did. And for some reason, I guess, birth control is more important than the Constitution. What these women don't understand is that by upholding the Constitution, we still have freedom. We have more freedom.
Now, you're an independent, and just for the record, I've always been a pro-life person, and I've never been anything but you're not necessarily.
No, I'm actually pro-choice.
You are pro-choice.
With limits.
Right.
But this isn't even, to me, this isn't even a pro-choice or pro-life issue. It's strictly a constitutional issue about the First Amendment. So, of course, pro-life groups were pushing for Hobby Lobby, and pro-abortion groups were pushing for Obama. But, excuse me, to me, it's a constitutional issue.
Right.
Those two issues mean nothing to me.
Right.
I mean, you know what I mean. In this case,
I know what you're saying.
That's the same with the buffer zone bill. It's the First Amendment issue. That's my stance on it, because the Constitution to me is more important.
Right.
Obviously, there's groups that on both sides that are fighting.
There's always extremists on both sides, and
I wasn't even going to say that, but there's always both sides fighting these issues from that stance.
And as long as somebody's not being threatened or harmed in the process of the protest, you have no right to interfere with a person's right to free speech.
Oh, yeah, agreed. And, again, this is just another example of people who ignore the Constitution. I don't understand what they think it is or what they think it's there for, but they just ignore it. Sebelius probably doesn't have taken oath to uphold the Constitution, but all the Democrats who voted for this did. And this is what happened. And Rep. Shea Porter's one of them. And of course, Shaheen is another one.
I take it you're not a big fan of Shaheen. Listen, we got 1 more minute.
The last thing I want to say is I don't understand what happened to women. Why women are so weak and dependent on men or the government to interfere with their health care in such a way that that makes it seem like they're so pathetic they just can't go down the street and buy it themselves. What did women do before? Right. I mean, we bought it before. We didn't always rely on our employers to provide it before, and it's really cheap. So I don't understand the hysteria, the ignorance, the anger, the hatred. It's ridiculous, and frankly, I'm ashamed of pretty much half of my gender right now.
It seems as though their independent women are a threat to totalitarians, and I'm believing that the feds are turning in such a way that they're trying to micromanage every part of our lives, whether it's your thermostat in your house, whether it's the food that you eat, whether it's the medical devices you use.
Right.
They want to manage. And if you read the Constitution, and I would challenge anybody to read the preamble first, then read the Constitution, and find out really how much of your liberty has just been worn away. It's like beach erosion, just a little at a time. Each wave, and it comes in waves. And once it's gone, how are you going to get it back? How are you going to get back these liberties that are just washing away? It's time to remove the hysteria from the discussion and start looking at, read it. Read the Constitution. Read what you're losing. Read what you're giving away. Everybody has a right to speak. Everybody has a right for their conscience. Everybody has a right to bear arms. Everybody has a right to equal protection under the law, and on and on and on. I'm going to ask this: how many amendments are there to the Bill of Rights? How many?
Right.
If you had to think about it, you're probably taking them for granted. So how can people get in touch with you?
I'm the Manchester Political Buzz Examiner at examiner.com. I'm also Conservative ID on Twitter, and I'm also now writing for Granite Grok.
Granite Grok.
Yep.
And once in a while you can hear you on the Jeff, how do you say his
Jeff
last?
Chittister.
Chittister. I was just on not too long ago.
And Gerard at Large also on Monday mornings, Political Buzz.
All right. Well, thank you for coming back on the show.
Thank you.
All right. And that's it for now for Speak Up. Until next week, thanks for watching, and we'll see you then. If you would like to be a guest on Speak Up, please contact me at speakupnh@gmail.com. We'll help you be heard.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.